Alright, welcome back to the internet, and it is a beautiful day because you can actually replace Zapier entirely with HighLevel. I have a little diagram here kind of showing what we're going to be doing. Essentially, I had a client that was spending like $1,000 a year on Zapier, and we moved everything over to HighLevel. It costs basically nothing extra per year. He's already using HighLevel. And I'm going to explain to you why doing that was actually not that hard, exactly how I did it, how you can do it, and just know that during this video, I will not miss an opportunity to shit on Zapier. So anyways, let's get into this. All right, and let's just cover really quickly what Zapier actually gives you. So I've outlined this here. Firstly, they give you basically a computing server. Anytime you have like an automation that has to run without your computer being on, it's a computer somewhere else that's running it, all right? So it's not free, but it is pretty cheap for the most part, and Zapier somewhat charges you for this. HighLevel doesn't really charge you at all for compute, and Zapier also, I mean, you're mostly not paying for compute, because if you were to get your own server, it would be like super cheap, like a fraction of any of this stuff. So the compute is a very small part of it, all right? That's anyone can get compute. The next thing though is API wrappers, okay? So when you use like Zapier, I guess for this example, you would use like Zapier to, tell Gmail or whatever to send an email or Twilio to send a text. All you're doing is you're sending Twilio a package that says, hey, here's my user, here's the text I want to send, and here's whatever other information you need. And Twilio goes, okay, great, I'll execute that request for you. I'll send the text, right? And so all it is it's an API that you're interacting with, Twilio's API, and Zapier just makes it easier for you to interact with it. Because if we check out what we have here, so this is inside of my Zapier account, we can see I'm interacting with Square. I'm telling Square I want to create a customer, and this is their API, but all you have to do is drag in the information. It's super easy. Except I'm going to show you how we can do this basically just as easily without needing this kind of wrapper. Because the downside of this wrapper that they give you here is if they don't, everyone who's used Zapier has come up with a problem where they can't do what they want to do to interact with the app, and that's kind of the downside. So that's one thing they provide to you. They do have probably the most wrappers. That's kind of their claim to fame, I guess. But they also have pre-built tools. So if we look at this, we have this format price. So I forget what this actually does, but it looks like it turns a... Okay, so basically all it's doing here is it's turning the dollar amount into a cent amount. So it's just multiplying it by 100. So you have like all these different kind of very simple actions where you literally only need to like, look, in this case, I'm just multiplying this number by 100. So that's super easy, but it might also have to do with like a phone number where you're taking like some string like this, and then you want to add like an area code or a country code and then format it nicely. You would want like some sort of function where you can plug it in and have it change the formatting like this, okay? And Zapier does provide, honestly, like a decent amount of these tools, but it's so funny how easy they are to replace. And then lastly, you can ignore this, hang on. Lastly, the UI for basically creating the logic is the last thing that they provide. And I just want to show you how angry this makes me sometimes, okay? So if we go to Zaps, so first of all, dude, this is like the most fucking unpleasant app to use. Like everything's always reloading. But if we just try to like use some of this logic here. So first thing we have like let's do a loop, okay? If you were to do a loop, you could like create some sort of object to loop over, like from line items, right? But then you can't add any actions after the loop executes. You just can't. It's like a really weird limitation, but you can't actually add a loop. You can't add an action after a loop. So there's also, so there's also paths. So you can kind of do like an if, like a branching statement. But then in there, oh wait, hang on. Okay, I was trying to shit on them in another way too. But they do have the paths, so you can split logic. And you can loop, but you can't do anything after it. So if we compare this to HighLevel, Well, you can very easily make a loop in HighLevel if we just go custom code, and we'll just have this start like as a number, like start. So let's say we want to start with 10, okay, in HighLevel, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna output equals actually literally input data dot number. I think that was it. Yeah, dot start. So we can just output that number, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll say we want to send like a text every time that this runs, okay? This is kind of a weird example, but let's say we just want to do that. And then between these, we want to wait like 1 minute, okay? Wait 1 minute. And then what we can do is we can add another code block, and all we have to do is take in that number that we had above. So it would be like, okay, and this has like a logical flaw here, but essentially you would just do, and you would output a new number, which is that last number minus 1, and then if we hit save, then every time that happens, you could just like repeat the action, and then if it's like below 0, if your iterator is at the end, then you just have it end the system. So you can actually create loops. I'm going to show you. You could create like far more complex logic than you can in Zapier. Okay, so what I was saying about compute, like this shit is literally dirt cheap right now. I'm going to show you. They have a section on their website where essentially they say they have premium actions like code and stuff, which costs like a cent per execution. And with Zapier, it's 4 cents per execution. So essentially, like HighLevel is cheaper than Zapier, and you're still not really paying for the compute. But even if you were, like HighLevel would be way cheaper. It's literally a quarter of the price, and you get the entire. It's like pay as you go, so it's not recurring. Okay, but now let's talk about the other thing. Not the other thing. The next thing, which is using APIs, okay? Because we saw earlier that when we were looking at our Zap, dude, look how like weird this interface is. It just like doesn't feel like it works that well. I don't know. I love to shit on Zapier. Fuck off. Okay, so Square. So I want to interact with Square. I want to create a customer. Now, interestingly, my client is also using Square, and the way we set this up is, let's just go, we're syncing all of our contacts between Square and HighLevel, and also another scheduling platform, okay? And we have contacts in all 3 places, and we want to keep them in sync, and in HighLevel, we're storing the Square customer ID and the ZenBooker, that's the scheduling software, the ZenBooker customer ID, so we can basically keep everyone in sync and just have like better control over all the contacts. And so this requires using Square and talking to Square from HighLevel. And I'm going to show you how easy that actually is. So if we go, basically what we're doing is we're checking if we have a current Square ID saved for this customer, for whoever's coming into this workflow, okay? So it'll be a field called Square Customer ID, and if that's not empty, if there is a customer in there, then what we're going to do is update that customer in Square. And let me show you just how easy that is, because all you have to do to use like basically any app is you Google, let's say Square in this case, API docs, okay? Just Google that phrase. You click on the first link. Well, actually, anyway, I'll click on this first link, and oh my god. Okay, maybe it requires a little bit of clicking around, but essentially, I want to find a way to interact with the customers through Square's API. So if I go to customers API. All right, you know what? I don't work for Square. I don't know everything, but what I do know is I found this page eventually. And this basically gives you every single way that you can update or change customers in your Square account. So you can bulk create, you can search for customers, delete customers, retrieve, update, blah, blah, blah. You can do whatever you want. And the interesting thing about this is it's all so easy, okay? So let's just go here and let's say update customer. This is the step that we wanted to do in that HighLevel workflow. And it looks like we need a customer ID. to be able to update the customer, okay? So let's come over here, and what we can see is we have this, which is a webhook action, okay? It's actually a custom webhook. And what that allows us to do is Square, okay, let's actually come over to the exact, okay, so it looks like they want, if we come back to the API docs, we can see it's a put request, so this is the type of request, and then the URL is going to be /v2/customer/customer ID. And we can just see that full URL. If you look at the curl request, so they'll give you examples like Java, PHP, Node, Ruby. If you go to curl, they'll show you like the full URL. And you would just copy this URL and then bring that over here. So it's that same URL, and then we're just dropping in our Square customer ID, okay? And as you saw, the method was put. Actually, I had this as post up until now, up until I realized, and it was still working. So sometimes you get like with Square, they have a super forgiving API. Like you can use it even if you're a bit thick like me, and it still works. So then we're using a bearer token. So if we come back to the API docs, it's going to say the header, one of the headers should be Square version, and then have this. Content type, have this. And then authorization should be bearer plus a space, and then access token. And what we have here is we have it's a bearer token authorization type, so that means it puts that in the header for us, and all we have to do is put in our API key. And then the same headers that they requested. And then the body is just, let me come back here. The body, it would be nice if I could make this bigger. Yes. The body is exactly this. So they say they want the D, I guess stands for data in a curl request, and you just want to structure a package or a payload like this. This is called JSON. Don't ask me what it stands for. But you can actually just look through here and figure out exactly how you need to send the data over. So that's how we're doing that. So we're just sending over email address, phone number, given name, family name, blah, 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 all this information, and it just works. It just freaking works. You can get a response back from Square and actually use that in the workflow. Like here, if Square returns a 404, like you ever land on a web page and it says like, 404 page not found. If you make a request to an API to a URL, like a customer that doesn't exist, if it was /customer/John, which is no one has the customer ID of just John in their system, they would return a 404. And if we get that, we know we have the wrong Square customer ID, and we can clear that value in our HighLevel and then just restart and resync everything up. And then just so you can see kind of how this workflow works as well, we're basically going through, and if they don't have a Square ID attached, we're trying to see if we can find a customer in Square with the same contact info. And if we can, then we're just going to connect to them, like sync the information. And if we can't, we'll just create a new customer and save that Square customer ID to our HighLevel account. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense with the APIs. I mean, using APIs is so easy. I think it's actually extremely valuable. All you have to learn is basically put, post, patch. I'll go back to this. You just have to learn how to use, like, how to determine what method you want to run, and then how to choose, like, a URL where you actually, like, figure out what URL to send it to, and then basically how to send, like, headers and the body. I mean, it's super fucking simple. It's dead simple. And, yeah, that's basically all you need. So I'm going to move on to tooling. Now, if we remember, tooling in Zapier was things like formatting a phone number or multiplying a number by 100, dude. How is that not just fucking easy? So, let me show you an example. Okay, now this is a goated workflow. I just want you to know that. Essentially what we're doing with this workflow is we're taking a date that looks like this, and we're sending out reminders, like a 24-hour reminder and a 1-hour reminder for this event. And it's not a high-level event. It's stored in ZenBooker in a different software. So we're going to be like sending reminders for this event, but we can't use with HighLevel, normally you would do wait, and then you would choose event appointment time, and you would choose like, one day before the next event, and that would be a 24-hour reminder. But we can't do that because it's not an actual event in HighLevel. In order to create an event, you have to make an app for HighLevel, and you have to use the API. It's possible, but it's more of a pain in the ass, and it's not really worth it because you can do everything you need to using this. So every 30 minutes, we're checking if it's time to send a reminder, 24-hour, 1 hour. Otherwise, we just re-loop again and wait to see if we should send another reminder. But I got sidetracked. Anyways, this is a tool. This is what I mean by a tool, okay? So essentially, all we're doing is we're checking if the place that this job is booked is a shop or if it's mobile. And if it's mobile, then we're gonna be outputting false here. And if it's true, then if it is in the shop, then we're gonna be outputting true for shop. And then that means we can send a message that varies depending on where the actual appointment is taking place. Okay. And just so you know how freaking easy it is to build an API like this, or I guess it's like an API. Okay. So this reminder check workflow right here. Essentially, I don't mess with dates. No programmer likes dates. It's all black magic, but ChatGPT, or actually Claude, is decent at dates. So all I did to make this workflow is I'm using Cursor, but you can use literally text edit or whatever you want to edit text. And we have output. We have a variable called output. It's kind of funny because all you do is you set output to a value, and then when the function ends, HighLevel takes that output as like the output. So it's kind of weird. You don't treat it like a normal variable, but we let output, and then we're calling this function every minute, and this should be every 30 minutes. And then I'm telling it what the string looks like. I'm telling it this is how you access the date. So it comes from input data.date. And then if we're 24 hours out, this is what I want the reminder to look like, or the output. If it's 1 hour, this, and then otherwise it should be none. And then I literally just plug this in to Claude. Basically all I do in Cursor is, you don't have to highlight it, but you just hit Command L, and then you say, please do this for me. And it outputs this, and it works fucking flawlessly, okay? So building these tools, it's just super simple, extremely easy code. You don't even have to know how to code. You just have to know how to ask ChatGPT to code for you, which is, a little bit easier. And, yeah. And as a last note, in terms of the UI, if we look at this workflow, we have a loop, we have an if statement, we have all these things going on. I don't actually think you could build this in Zapier, or it would be a pain in the ass. But with HighLevel, it's honestly not that bad. So that is one of the main selling points. It's just so much easier to build with HighLevel. It's just like a way more kind of flexible environment. And somehow, even though HighLevel is the king of neglecting their UI and UX, it actually might have a better UI and UX than Zapier. Sorry, Zapier, but you gotta get good, dude. And with that, if you want to get my browser, I will leave a link in the description below, and then we can get more icons. You can see what the next unlocked icons are, and yeah, this browser's sick, dude. What do you expect? I literally made this in the fucking browser, and I will see you